So when you're improvising with scales or arpeggios or any left-hand shape, it's important to find sort of subroutines or smaller sections of those things and really drill them. And particularly we want to drill areas which we know contain things that are hard. And that can be a number of different things, but one of the main things that can cause something to be hard is a pattern that we get into, and then we have to break that pattern. Or it could be a hand shape that we have to get into to get one shape, but then have to immediately get out of it to get another shape. So it's navigating these like hit this, hit this, hit this, all in succession, and you need to be able to do the actual moves of each one before you can practice the succession. So that's why you isolate these parts, because the moves themselves, some of them are harder. That's the point. So a perfect example, we're going to take the Form 1 major scale, and we're going to do it in fourths. So this is, thirds is typical, that I probably already have a video on that. Oops. I can't watch myself on the video while I play. It's really bad. I'm just still getting used to this. Anyways, I mess up. But, okay, what was I saying? Yeah, so take that scale and then we're going to do it in fourths. Here's the first instance of this. We're probably, if we're going to improvise with this scale, we're probably going to do that as a bar. Probably going to do that as a pinky bar. Definitely a first finger bar. Here, it's got to be 2 and 3. Still on 2 separate strings, but it's not the same fret anymore, so I can't justify the bar. Bar with pinky. Bar, bar, bar. Okay, we're on 2 separate strings still, but now we get to use separate fingers because we're at fret off. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Here's the doozy. 4 to 1. This shape is 2 strings away instead of 1. That's the most radical change out of all of them. And then right back after it, you're back to a bar. So this section is extremely important in this scale when you play it in fourths. And we're going to drill it. So I don't have my metronome, but I'll just try to keep a steady tempo. So we're doing this with first finger, third finger, fourth finger on the second, fourth, and fifth frets of the third string, and then 2 and 4 on the second string, and then a 1, 2, 4 on the top string. And in fourths, it's like this: 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 4 to 1, 3, 5, 5. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. Start to speed it up a little bit. isolating even this. The top transition coming from the bottom into that harder split. That pinky to first finger, obviously harder, so we're going to practice just getting into it, and then we're going to practice just getting out of it. Oops. So you see, the instinct is sometimes to just mess up and continue the pattern. If you break your concentration, that'll happen. Okay, now we're going to do reverse direction for each one. So, obviously, swinging rhythms is always a good way to practice scales. Forcing yourself to transfer faster on certain notes forces the hand to know it a little better. The other way. Let's see if we can mix it up. So we'll do no. There. Oh. Okay. Good. You see the tendencies, okay? The tendencies to try to repeat a pattern that is not supposed to be repeated. Shift when you're not supposed to, collapse the hand when you're not supposed to, not properly prepare, getting that pinky prepped, or any hand shape, any special hand shape prepped. That's a great one because you've got some normal stuff That's totally normal. You should be able to do that all day. Perhaps we don't do enough, actually, of this sort of thing. Because there actually is sort of, it's like I can do it, but it's surprising even how much concentration that takes. It's very natural for the hand, but it actually takes a lot of concentration. Okay, now compare that to something like this. Obviously, it's not complicated, but the point is, it's a sort of a stretch because of the angle. You got to suck the elbow in. Now, and then a bar, obviously, is almost the complete opposite. You got to sort of get behind it in this weird way, or else it's going to sound crappy. You're not really in a position to bar with a second finger to go on the side of it. Although maybe we should. You have to rotate your hand too far to get onto the side of it. So it's really going to be a sort of like a this thing. But that means you're coming from the elbow being basically against your side, against your ribs. And then you got to sort of bring that hand back to even get that without moving the elbow. So there's all sorts of physical things in that little segment that are different to navigate, and to get between those three different sort of modes of physical playing is a big challenge in sections of scales like that. And the moral of the story is, don't ignore those parts of the scale. It's tempting when you first learn a scale to pretend as if when you learn it, like, oh, I'm just going to always practice it with a metronome at this tempo. And yes, metronomes are good, and practice with them. And I'm always going to play the scale as a thing, up and down, you know, like the scale as an object, not different parts of it isolated. That is not a good practice technique. You need some of that, obviously. You need some just sitting there and which is if that's not an exercise I've covered yet, then I will. But the problem with that approach is that you never, like I said, you never practice the actual individual hand shapes that you need for each section. You practice the transition, but because you're sort of assuming that all those transitions are going to be created equal. No, certain sections of scales are very hard to execute, and certain sections are not. The landscape of difficulty of a left-hand pattern can go up and down, and it's important to have that awareness before you play it, so that you know at which points there will be what moves and what things need to happen with your body to execute those moves properly. Okay.